Hello everybody, I'm Avian and we are working on our Stardew how to make a mod video. We've been using my garden cottage mod that I am currently in the process of making, and today I'm going to walk you through my process when I make an event. So there's a couple things to keep in mind when you're making an event. Where your event is going to take place, who is going to be in your event, and what you want to happen in your event. So the first thing I like to do is make out a script for my event, which is what I've done. I've just got a Google Doc here where I've written out that it's going to happen after the heart event quest, and I'm going to write later is complete. And then what I want to happen, like I want the farmer to step out of the house, and there's Howie and his brother Andrew. I have a little script written out, including if I want them to make the little emotes above their heads and what I want that to be, as well as if I have branches for questions and things. So I like to just start with making myself a script of what I want to happen. Once I have that figured out, you want to look at where you're going to have it happen. If you have tiled, which I recommend if you're going to be doing maps, you can open your map in tiled and find your location. So for example, if I wanted the event to happen at Joseph's basement, oops, wrong one. Actually, yeah, let's use this as an example since I have it open. This is a little park map I've been making. So if you're untiled, you can open up your original town maps and it'll tell you this. But you can also use, there's some tools out there for discovering your tile placement. I like to just open up Untitled. So say I want my event to happen in this map. If I mouse over, you can see the little blue highlighted square. If I mouse over here, it'll show you down in this corner what that tile reference number is. So example, this square right here, we'll use the one at the end of the slide. It's going to be 70, 79 if you look down in that corner that I just had highlighted a minute ago. For the farm, there is always going to default directly in front of the farmhouse steps, which is why I'm not terribly worried about opening up and finding my placements for that. What I am going to do, though, just for my reference for movement tiles, is I'm going to back up. I have my original files. Oops. I'm just going to take the farm map right here, which has this path. The farmhouse roughly character should start right about here. And I'm just going to move that for rough movement. So if I need somebody to move down 2 steps and over so I can see both characters, that is what I'm going to do, because the way the original encoding on the vanilla game is, any events on the farm always start in the same spot. And that's just because there's so many different farmhouses that it's hard-coded into the game. So since my event that I'm going to write starts on the farmhouse, I'm just going to be using this as rough approximation as opposed to precise. Next thing you want to do is you want to open your events JSON. That's the word I'm looking for. So in this case, I've named mine twins events.json because that is what I want this events section to focus on. So this has all my events for Louie and Howie, the twins. Your JSON is always going to start with your opening bracket and have a closing bracket at the end. And then you're going to type this changes section in. So it's quotes, changes between your 2 quotes, colon, and then a square bracket. And you're going to add a square bracket in at the end above your closing curly bracket. Again, you've heard me say this probably 1,000 times by now. Your brackets always come in pairs, an open and a close. Next, when you're writing an event, you're going to have your little section. I have put comments in on what I want my events to be and where I want them to be. So I'm going to come down to the end of my comments section here. We're going to make our pair of brackets. I'm going to put a comma at the end of this pair of brackets because that's going to tell it when I do my next events that there's a new section. And this is going to tell it that everything between these two brackets is going to be this event. I like to go on a new line. You're going to do 2 quotes, colon, 2 quotes. I always do that to make sure that I haven't, how do I put this, that I haven't forgotten to close a quote or add a comma. You're going to want about 4 of these. Now, and then you're going to want to just back up and put them all on the same line. It's not required, but I like to do that because visually it helps me know where I'm at. First section is going to be log name. You will notice that I'm getting a little yellow underline. That's because in VS Code it's telling me that I have something that is currently a duplicate somewhere. You don't really want duplicates because you need each thing to be unique. So because we're in this section and I haven't put anything in those quotes, these 3 quotes are duplicates of each other. So I'm going to go in and fill out each of my sections here. We have our log name, we have our action, we're going to have a target, ET. Would help if I could spell. There we go. And then we're going to have an entries, ENTRIES. Each of these is going to be a different section, and I'm going to explain each one as we go through here. Your log name, if there's an error in an event on a page like this where you have several events together, it's going to tell you which event has the error. So in this case, it's going to be Howie's 8 heart. So if there were to be an error and Smappy log will tell you your error, this would tell me Howie 8 heart event, and I'll know to come right here. The action on this is going to be edit data. That is because there are already events in the vanilla game. So we are editing data as in we're adding a new event to the existing event data. The target, in this case, it's going to be data/events/farm. And this is telling it that in the original file, in the original data folder, in the events folder, and then it's going to be the farm file is what it's going to target. I believe I have another one up here that targets the farm. Yes, data events farm. Just double checking myself. So we are adding this event to the farm data. Okay, so this entry section is going to be entries, and you have your opening and closing quotes here, which is technically incorrect because in our entries field, it doesn't start with opening and closed quotes. It is a opening and closed curly bracket. And then everything is going to be contained inside this curly bracket. And again, I always put my opening and close to begin with to make sure I don't forget something. Your next, inside this section, you are going to do the double quotes. You're going to do a colon. You're going to do a second set of double quotes. You're going to have a space there. And then a comma to close that. This is where all your event information is going to be contained. The very first thing you need to make is a event ID. That is going to be the name of your event. So if you look up at one I already have finished, I have this section right there is going to be your event ID. Anywhere you referenced your event ID, you're going to plug that in. So in this case, I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to use the mod ID token. What that does is it pulls my unique mod ID from my manifest and places this in to any place where I have the 2 quotes mod ID token. This is, I believe, a feature content patcher. So I'm going to follow the same format I did above. Double open, double closed. Inside this, I'm going to put mod with a capital M, capital I, D. Anytime I use that section, it's going to fill it in with my mod ID. I like to then put underscore, and this is then going to be named Howie 8 heart in camel case. Camel case is where your capital of each word is capitalized and the rest is lowercase. I just like to use that. It's good practice to be consistent, and that is what I've been doing. So I'm keeping my consistency across the board with how I do these. So now, any place where I have put a event ID referencing this, I can then go and copy this in. I'm actually going to do that now so I don't forget. I have shown you on the previous videos where I made portraits and sprite data how I put just a placeholder there. So I'm now going to open one of these and show you, and I need to open all these, where I'm putting that in. Okay, so because we did Howie's glasses, let's start with the sprite appearance. I'm just going to search for glasses real quick because I know where that is. So you can see here I have the placeholder is event and then ID. I'm going to highlight those and just paste over that. So that is saying that this is the event ID, and anytime that particular event is referenced, then this is going to happen. In this case, it's doing the overlay for Howie's glasses. And that is unique specifically to this event that we're writing here. So I'm just going to find that again here. And I'm just going to make sure I do that because I don't want to forget. And then it won't work if I forget. I'm just going to close out. Save and close. Save. And now I know that after this event is seen, those triggers will occur. And that is why it's so important to have this be unique. That is also why a lot of modders put the mod ID just to be safe. It's like not only are you giving it a unique name within your mod, but because it's attached also to your mod ID, there is an extremely tiny chance that somebody else's mod would use that. Hopefully nobody would be using that because nobody should also have your event ID. That it should be unique to your particular mod. That is what you have named your mod. And nobody else should ever be using that. So this is one way to guarantee that your event ID is going to be unique no matter what other mods are also installed. The next section is also included within your quotes here. This is where you are setting your event preconditions. So things like, is this triggered at a certain heart level? Is this triggered at a certain season? Is it during a certain weather? Is it dependent on also having seen another event? So in this case, we need this to be Howie's 8 heart event. Howie is only present during during summer and fall. The rest of the time he's at home with his parents. The weather in this case is not going to be particularly important, so I don't care if it's raining or not. So I'm going to leave that out. But what you do need to have seen is the event where he tells the farmer that he needs glasses and he's nervous about getting them. So what I'm going to do is then add my preconditions for friendship level, season, and having seen the other event. And the way you do that is you're going to separate it by a slash here. So in this case, the friendship, as you can see up here with Louise, is that it's friendship character name, number of points equaling a heart. So it should be friendship. The character's internal name, in this case, is Howie Davis. Internal name, I'm going to cover that real quickly because I've got it put up. That is the name that you have given your character that is unique to that character. So if you look at my character data, for example, my character Andrew is Andrew Davis. That is going to be Howie's brother that shows up in this event. I have a cat in the way. I am so sorry. I will move her in a minute. Okay, we have fed the cat her lunch and she is now off the desk and out of the way. So we were talking about internal character names. So in your character data, it's this name right up here, right above the display name, birth season, etc. If you're looking at the original vanilla characters, they are set up exactly the same way. So you can go into the original characters JSON if you need their internal names. So for example, Abigail is just Abigail. You can scroll past her rest of her setup. Carolyn is just Carolyn. Most of us, when we set up our character data, and this will be in a whole video, I'll cover it, is we give our character a unique name that is unlikely to be repeated by another mod. In this case, for me, I use first and last name. In the event I ever find out that somebody did give a character the exact same first name and set up their internal ID exactly the same as I did, I could do something like putting in an underscore. Now, if I do that, I do have to do a replacement everywhere else. But again, we'll do that in a different video. But if you need to know a character's internal name, it's right on top of their setup data, just like that. So we are, in this case, using Howie's internal name, which is the full name Howie Davis. Now we need to set up his heart level. I believe it is 250 points per heart. I am going to go to my modders wiki real quick into the event data. I will include a link to this page in the description because this will tell you friendship name number, friendship points. I can click here and it will go and tell me my friendship points, which I believe is 250. Yes, each heart is 250 friendship points. This is why I love having the wiki up when I'm doing things because it's just great for the quick reference. So we have our friendship, our name, and our number. So here we have friendship name space. So I need to add, see, in this case, it's going to be 2,000 points for a 8-heart event. So in this case, it's 6 hearts was 1,500. That's 2 hearts in between, which is 500. So 15 added to 5 puts us at 2,000 points. My next thing we need to specify is that Howie is only present during summer and fall. So the way you do this is because it could either be either summer or fall or not winter, not spring. I discovered it was easier to tell the event not to play in spring and not to play in summer. In this case, if you put a exclamation point, that immediately tells your event code not what follows the exclamation point. So season, not winter, another slash. Now if I had done season spring, that would say in season spring. We want not season spring, so exclamation point at the beginning of that. The weather can be anything, so I'm going to leave the weather out. However, we do need to specify that a particular event has to have been seen first, because otherwise the could play out of order, and I don't want that. Alternatively, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, instead of having seen an event, I'm going to say it has seen a letter, because I want this event to play. I'm going to have Howie send a letter that occurs after this plays. And then I want this event to play if you've seen the letter. So we don't need to do every single thing, but what you need to do is decide the most important preconditions that at the highest level. So because the season is important, friendship level is important, I've put those in. And because I'm going to do a letter after event, and the letter is dependent on the event, I do not also need to say this. I just need to say it has seen the letter. So I'm going to go back to my wiki. I'm going to search for my letter precondition. It has received given mail. I think there is, yes. So we want, prior to 1.6, you could use these little shortcuts, so it would be N letter ID. However, 1.6 has now added in the full name that'll be recognized. And I've been using that just because I don't know if these will eventually go away. I feel like the best practice is to use the full name, full argument right here. And that is this bit in this column. So we're going to go local mail and then the letter ID. So I need local mail, letter ID. In this case, I'm going to call it Howie Glasses letter. I have not written Howie Glasses letter, so I'm going to copy that. Instead of doing a placeholder in the event, I'm going to copy what I've decided that letter ID is going to be, and I'm going to save it in my planning document here. So I've written out the letter. We're going to do a whole thing on how to write and program mail in another video pretty soon. So I'm going to put a note here that my letter ID is going to be Howie Glasses letter. I'm going to just change that to a darker blue so I can tell the difference there. So now in the future, when I write this letter, I know that I have already used this ID, that I have to use this ID. Alternatively, you can do what I did with the portraits and put a placeholder. But in this case, I am more prone to forget to add in a precondition in an event than I am prone to forget to take a thing for the sprites and stuff. So this is why I'm just putting steps in place to make sure that I don't break my own code. So now, when you have the letter, which you get after you've seen the previous event, and it is also either summer or fall, after you reach 8 hearts with Howie, the following event is going to play. The next bit gets to be a bit tricky. This is where I am prone to making the most mistakes, is actually writing out your event. This is why I have made myself the script that I've shown you earlier. When writing your event, it's going to go inside these 2 quotes here. I'm going to put a line between the 2 quotes. VS Code is immediately telling me that it doesn't like that line. We're going to ignore the red squiggle for a moment. We will close up the gaps and the spaces after the event is finished. But what I want to make sure I don't do is I don't want to accidentally paste anything over that quote, because otherwise it won't have its closing and will be broken from the start. When you're writing your events, there are a couple things that have to happen in a specific order. You have to choose your music. There is then a required camera location, followed by making sure all your characters are in their starting positions. So what I like to do is I like to choose my music. I just copy this in from the previous event to make sure I've got it in the right order, and then I will change it. So each section of your event code is going to have this /, and what that does is it marks each individual thing between the slashes as its own section. So for example, right here, you're specifying music. This is going to specify your starting camera frame. And right here will specify where your characters currently stand. I was going to go ahead and edit each one of those things. There it is, farm. Okay. So as I was saying a little bit ago, your farmer, when you are doing an event on the farm map, usually starts in the same default position. So I'm going to put in the default position from my previous farm events, which was 64.16.2. If you are using an alternate farm map, if the farmhouse has moved, that is not going to affect this because of the way it's hard-coded in. So you can start with your default position right there, and say somebody has downloaded a mod that moves their farmhouse, or they have gone to Robin and moved. I don't know if the farmhouse can move if you talk to Robin. I know the greenhouse moves if you talk to Robin. But some of the other mods will move the farmhouse around depending on where they have put the farmhouse in their modded farm. Wherever that location is, a farm event will always start with the farmer in the door, right in front of their farmhouse door. And then the character they are talking to about 2 spaces below them on the farmhouse steps if you have the vanilla farmhouse. It's usually about 2 spaces below them, even if a mod has recolored the farmhouse. So if you have more than one character, they're also going to start in that same 2 spaces. So what I do when I have more than one character at a farm event is I keep the original starting frame of -1,000 by -1,000, which has moved the camera off of the farmhouse and over into the black void away from the map altogether. I keep that frame there, and then I tell the characters to move to where I want their starting position to be, and then I move the camera frame when we're doing a farmhouse event, which this particular one is. Your first section is always going to be your music, because I copied this from an earlier event. It's currently set at the library theme. I'm going to change that. There is a nifty chart out there called the Event Modding Resource. I'm going to put the link to this in the description. I have not seen anywhere where it says I couldn't share it. I've seen it shared 1,000 times across the modding community. I'm going to go ahead and share it as well. I could not, for the life of me, find the name of the wonderful person who made this way back in 2018, possibly earlier than that. If you know who made this, let us know so we can tell you thank you. If you made this and you don't want me to share it, let me know. I'll take it down. But again, I've seen it shared about 1,000 times, so I feel comfortable sharing it as well. This is basically a gigantic spreadsheet of all the sound bank IDs, the music IDs, item IDs, event IDs. It was made prior to 1.6, so be a little careful when you use it. To my knowledge, those sound bank and music IDs have not changed, and neither have the event IDs. So I'm going to go to the music IDs. I think I know which one I want, but in case you don't, this sprite sheet also has links to the YouTube video where that sound is exhibited where possible. So this, I just want like a light, happy tune here. Let's see. I think I'm going to use this one. Jaunty I'm going to copy that. These are set to comment only, so you don't have to worry about accidentally overwriting it. Just look up here, make sure it says comment only. And that way you can click on your box, Control C for copy. If you're on an Apple, it's Command. I am not, I am a Windows person. And you can just paste that in exactly as written. And that will now play the jaunty theme for our event. I now know, too, that I need Howie Davis and Andrew Davis to be present in my event, along with the farmer. So I'm going to write in Davis, their eternal name. I'm then going to go back to my tiled map. Again, this is automatically going to be overridden on the farm map, so if I get it wrong, it'll be okay. If you're using an event in town or an event at the seed shop, you're going to want to make sure you use precise locations. I'm pretty sure the starting tile for these, though, is right here at 7114 on the default farm map. So I'm going to set them both. It's their internal name plus that 7114, which is your XY coordinates on your map. And then I want them both facing up, which is going to be a 0. There's going to be a space dividing each name. When you're looking at the facing directions, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. That's up, left, right, down. No, up, left, down, right. You can go to your event/data, and it will tell you. Let's try actually facing. I like to do the search for the keyword. There it is, face direction. Face a direction right here. You can click on this, open in a new link. Direction 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's up, right, down, and left, which is the character is looking in that direction. I'm going to leave that up because I'm going to get it wrong. I need to reference it about 100 times here. This is one reason I love the wiki, though, is that they have the links to the little charts and everything every time they explain what it is. So now that we have those starting things, we can start in creating our event. So I need to move the characters down and I need to move one of them over. So Howie can stay where he is. We're going to move Andrew. There are 2 move commands. There is a move for in a single straight line, and there is advanced move if you want your character to do more than one thing. One of the things I've learned when making events is you have to play with the move commands to figure out which one is going to do what you want it to do the best. I tend to favor the advanced move command, so that is what I'm going to do here. It's going to be advanced move, because I've used it previously in my code. I can just pull it out of my drop-down menu. Another thing I love about VS Code is it gives you that drop-down menu, advanced move. I believe it is, double check, I'm going to back to my wiki. There it is, advanced move, actor, loop. So advanced move, Andrew Davis, loop is false. This is not going to loop. This is going to be a one-time movement. If you were doing somebody running in circles, you might want to loop, or pacing back and forth, or where you want that action to continue the whole time until you tell it to stop. This, however, I just want him to move down a step and over a step and then face upwards. X, Y. So I'm going to double check. I believe it's going to be -1. Okay, so +1 is down, -1 is up. So I want 0, 1 for down. 0, 1 for down. And then on advanced move, you put your directions together, and it's going to be -1, 0 for left. Now, we'll show you this in the wiki because it's easier with the instructions right there. I need him to face a direction and stop. In your advanced move, this is where your directions go a little bit different, but they explain it right here, is because 0 is used in your XY axis as the offset for the direction you are not going. So if you're going 4, 0, you're going down 4 spaces. And that 0 there is saying down and not diagonal because of the way the game is, they move in a grid as opposed to diagonal. The command for facing up has swapped to a 4 in this specific command. This is the only place I know of that it does this. So because I then want him to face up and stop, I now have to put a 4 in. Here it is. I was looking for where to highlight it. It's this section right here. And 4 is up because 4 is up and not 0, so that an advanced move can tell the difference between a pause and a move up or down. So in this case, we're going to do 4, and we're going to pause for the tiniest little millisecond. I use 100 for just a momentary pause. And then we're going to end that right there. So what this is while the screen's still dark, Andrew's going to move down and over so that he and Howie are not standing on top of each other when everything starts. We are then going to move our camera frame. And again, if you go back to the move, I'm going to type in camera. And it is viewport. So what I want is not a fancy viewport command, just a standard viewport. Okay. How did I do it previously? Yep. So this is what I was looking for in the wiki, is it's just viewport your location and this is going to be, sorry, I'm looking for my other farm events. There it is. So this is the default viewport location. So the next time you move your viewport on a farm event, it needs to go to the same location. Farm events are tricky. I probably should have started off showing you all something different. So now that the default viewport is there, it's going to move the camera to focus in on the farmhouse steps. And now we are ready to start writing our event. I'm just going to save everything I've done so far. The next thing I want to do, so I'm going to come back here. I'm going to pull my script. I'm going to copy that directly into VS Code, and it's going to yell at me. It's going to be kind of weird. I am then going to comment out. Oh, it is / /star. Oh, is it not going to do that? Oh, that's why. Okay. Hang on. Because I put it within the quotes. We're going to go below our quotes. I'm going to put a /star. Everything after that's going to be a comment. We're going to put this in a comment block. And then star, and then / to end our comment block. And that way, if I forget to delete something here, as we go, it's not going to mess up the code at the end. But this is just going to make it easier for me to see my script as I code, as opposed to going back and forth between my Google Doc. The one reason I do like writing in a Google Doc is it's going to double check my spelling. I'm prone to typos. This way I know that it has been looked at prior, because I don't see any squiggles or blue squiggles or any hints or anything like that. So we can go here. The farmer stepped out. The camera is going into focus. And Howie and Andrew are waiting for the farmer. So I'm just going to delete that because I've done that. Your next thing is going to be a dialogue command, because that is the first thing I've set. Is Howie saying, "Hi, farmer, we've just got back from our doctor's appointment." So it's going to be speak, space, who's speaking. We're going to use their internal character name, Howie Davis. And now we're going to do, I'm just going to slide up just a little bit to make sure I'm doing this correctly. It is a /quote. And because I have my translation document set up, I'm going to set it up for our translation key. So it's the double curlies on each end for our translation key. /quote. Now we know we have our pair. And then it is our / to end the command. So in here, I'm going to do I18N : that's saying we're going to our translation page to pull the appropriate dialogue. And then we're going to put our translation key. If you did not have a translation document set up, translation JSON, you would just type in, instead of the curly brackets, I18N, you would just type your dialogue directly in there. But because I do have a translation file set up, I am putting my translation key in there. So for my events, this is going to be event 8. This is Louie's 8-heart event. Howie's 8-heart event. It's Howie's event. So event 8, Howie, first line in my translation document. So I'm going to copy that. I have my translation JSON up over here. I'm going to do the double line to make a comment. This is Howie's heart event. I'm putting the twins' events together, which is why I've got this. So I've got Howie 6-heart, Louie 6-heart here. So next would be Howie 8-heart. I'm just going to put that in so I know where it goes. And then we're going to make our translation. I'm going to do this every single time I have a line of dialogue for this event. We're going to do the quotes, second pair quotes. Here we go, second pair quotes, comma. Oh, I see what I did. I put a double colon. You'll notice it lit up red on me because I mistyped. And then I'm going to copy my event key in there. I'm going to copy the dialogue I wanted. Delete that line because it's getting copied over. We're going to paste that in. So now this translation key right here is going to pull this line of dialogue. I'm going to set myself up first for a couple more lines of dialogue. I'm going to do just this. I'm going to give myself about 10 lines of dialogue. So I'm going to take that. You'll notice it's turning level yellow because it is a duplicate. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to change each one of these numbers to not 13, 3, 4, 8, 9. Okay, so the first 9 are ready. And now, as I go through, I'll just copy the lines of dialogue over here, and I'll know that they will run according to this key. If, for example, I forgot to put dialogue in, and I had this set up and I had the key in my event, but I forgot to put dialogue in, what would pop up would be the line, and then instead of your dialogue, it'll say no translation because there was nothing in these quotes. So anytime you see a no translation error, that's mostly telling us that there is nothing in these quotes, or our key does not match, or something to that effect. The next thing I had is that I wanted the farmer to emote with a question mark, and then Andrew is going to emote with a happy face. In our modders information, I'm going to actually close out of that because I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to close out of that. Event data here. There is also an emotes chart. So for my question mark emote, it's going to correspond to an 8. For my happy face emote, it's going to correspond to a 32. So we're going to do emote. And again, this is listed up here. If you scroll up, you will see the emote will be at the top because it's alphabetical. Somewhere in here. There we go. It's going to be emote actor, emote ID, and continue. This continue is either a true or a false. So the best way I know to describe it is if you need 2 things to happen simultaneously, you can have it set to true because it's going to continue directly to the next thing. So say I want the farmer and Andrew to emote at the same exact time. I would set it to true. I default is set to false, so if I leave it out, it's not going to happen. But in this case, I want the farmer to question mark and then Andrew to happy face, almost like they're having an emote conversation, just like a one and the other. So it'll be emote farmer. Anytime you're referring to the player farmer, it is scripted as farmer. We know that our question mark is 8. And then I'm going to set false or leave it off depending on how strict you want to be. And then emote Andrew Davis. Happy face is 32. False. Always put your / between things. So what I have here is I want a question response where the farmer can choose one of these 3 lines and Andrew or Howie will respond accordingly. So that is a little bit different than just a standard line of dialogue. Here it is. Quick question. So you have a couple ways to do question and answers. If you want a question and just an answer, you can do this question null. You can do a question fork where the answer changes the direction of your event story. I don't like to use this one because I have broken so many things trying to do question answer, and I think there are better ways. My favorite way is to do this quick question, because you can have it function just as a question answer, or you can have it function where you can have different emotions or different things happen between the answers. So quick question is my personal favorite. I wanted to look it up here because I knew they were all together and I could just show it to you like that. So what it is it's going to be quick question written just like that with a smaller case Q at the start, capital Q in the middle, and again, you just copy straight out of the wiki if you want to. It's going to be quick question. And if I put quick question here, you can see I can scroll to my other events and see how it was written in my other events. I do sometimes reference it just like that, just for ease of seeing what I've done previously, because I know what I've done previously. Sometimes it helps me break it out and understand what I'm doing or remember what I'm doing if I've taken a break between writing events or something. Just had a single translation key. Question. So that tells me I had the farmer's answer first. And again, we're going to go the event, change it to a 3 for the next line of dialogue. I want to just double check how Louis 13 was written. Louis. Okay, so what I may do is I may go back and redo this at a later point, because I've done it with the coding in my translation key. I'm doing my best to stop doing that, and later at some point I'm going to have to go back and fix that. For now, though, we have the 3 things the farmer can say. So it's going to be what these are is these are your responses, and they are separated by a pound sign. So in this case, because the farmer says 3 things, it's going to be 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to put a pound sign between those and a pound sign at the beginning. So if you look up here, you can do it this way. This way does work, but I'm trying my best to fix this as I go, because we want to be kind to the people doing our translations. And if at some point I had it like this and the pound sign got missed in the translation, it would break the code. So again, I'm going to go back at some point and I'm going to fix those probably after I finish writing this event. But for right now, we're just going to fix it for this event going forwards. So it's this whole thing will read as one line of dialogue. So it's going to be 3, 4, and 5. So response 3. I'm going to go here. I need punctuation at the end of that. Copy. And again, I delete as I go so I remember what I've done. 4, 5. Again, I'm just fixing that. If you had something like that where it wasn't the correct symbol for the code, it shows up as a star or a little money sign or a little gold symbol. It's a gold symbol is what it is. Okay. So this, then, you would do a round bracket, put the word break all lowercase in there. So the farmer is speaking. You want to break, and now somebody else is going to speak. Speak. Andrew is answering the farmer. Full internal name. I have forgotten to use the full internal name and just done the display name, and then nothing happens. Or you get an error in SMAPI that says no character found. So we want the full internal name. And then we're just going to write the dialog just as we have been previously with the backslash quotes. Quote. Oh. There we go. And Andrew's response then becomes number 6 for the first response to the farmer. One thing you can do with VS Code, if you have multiples of exactly the same thing you want to change, you can highlight the first, right-click, change all occurrences. It'll create the same change in both spots, and then when you left-click again, so it's right-click, change all occurrences, and then you can click out of it. So the next speaker is going to be Howie. Again, I'm just going to highlight that so I can reference break. Yes, and you want to put a break between each. So it's like break version A, break version B, break version C. So you want to put a break between each version of what's happening. So if I was going to have an emote or something here, I could do that as long as I understand that without a break, it's going to read that the emote is part of version A. In this case, it's going to be part of version B. So we're going to do emote. So when we want to add emotes and stuff, it's a double dash. I had to double check myself because I don't always do this. Sometimes I just do A, B, A, B, A, B. In this case, I want to include an emote. So in this case, find myself where I was, emote Howie Davis. So it is a double backslash instead of a forward slash to divide it while you're within the quick question framework. I put it in the wrong spot. So it needs to go after the 32, double slash, and now I can do speak Howie Davis. And this will still, because it's between the breaks, it will still apply to version B. Speak Howie Davis. So now that we've written our whole quick question, we will close that with a forward slash, and then everything else that we come after here will now continue linearly instead of being choice A, choice B, or choice C. So now I'm going to do a question null. This is what you do when you don't really want to have different branches, like you just want to give there's a space between null and it's lowercase. Sorry, distracting myself. This is what you do when you want to give the farmer some flavor choices, but you don't necessarily need anybody to respond to the farmer. So in this case, you're going to do one, 2, 3. Again, your options for your flavors are separated by the pound or hashtag sign. I am dating myself right there saying pound. Probably guess how old I am based on my use of terminology there. Question null, I need to put my in. So the next thing I want to do is do a message command. That is what, if a character's not speaking, but you want to convey an action, that is the one I usually do. Message. And we're going to end. And because it's still a string, you just put in your translation key just the same as anything else. The only thing is it's going to show up in a message box instead of with a speaker. The only thing with a quick question to remember is that you cannot put a second quick question within the first quick question. You can do modes of movement and anything, but the quick question is the frame, and if you put a second one in there, it doesn't work. So if you want to do that, then you're going to want to split your events, fork your events. There's a couple ways to do that, which I might cover in a different video. Let me see, did I fork anything on the twins pages? I did. So if you're forking something, it is covered in your modding ID on the wiki. Let me just highlight that. So what you would do is you would do fork or switch event. Switch event lets you do more than one. Fork kind of does an A or B, but it's similar in concept. I think the better way to do it is probably a switch event, so I will probably go back and replace this command. But you do your fork or switch event, you set up an ID for it, and then down here you put your ID, and what it does is it hits this. Depending on whether it hits A or B, it either follows A all the way through, or it jumps to B and follows B all the way through. I'm probably going to make an entirely separate video about that just because I feel like that's a topic in and of itself. But I just wanted to mention it as a possibility before I forgot, because I don't want to confuse anybody with the quick questions. So anyway, quick question is its own thing, and you can't double quick question inside of a quick question. So everything. I've been capitalizing farmer when I didn't need to. So this is a great way to make sure if you have multiple changes that you don't miss one. Change all occurrences. I can go to the very beginning of farmer. I can delete the capital F. I can replace it with a lowercase f. Now I know for a fact that that farmer is lowercase everywhere I need it to be, just like it's supposed to be, instead of uppercasing it. And it shouldn't bug in the future. I am just going to do a standard fade and then end. And what the end does is it ends your event. You do not need a slash after end. What you do need, though, is your finishing quotes. And the moment I get this up here, that red squiggle is going to go away. And a comma. And then you want to make sure that you have closed your entry section and closed your ending bracket. And that is how you write an event. Give me a minute to get some things set up, and then I will show you how to test an event.